Welcome and congratulations, Governor-elect Maura Healey.
Yeah,
Thrilled to have you.
Where did you go, Marjorie? I saw your picture.
I know,
Oh,
I
there you are.
disappeared, but now I'm back with my Christmas lights.
With your
I'm
lights,
back.
you look great.
Hello,
you look
Governor-elect
great.
Healey,
I'm
thank
so
you.
happy to be with you, Marjorie and Jim and everybody here at the Boston Public Library. Thanks for
Well,
having me
good.
back.
Well, we're thrilled. We're thrilled to have you here.
Marjorie's
Governor
milking
Healey.
this COVID thing for all it's worth.
I'm
I just
milking
want to
it.
say
That's
for
right.
whatever.
That's right.
But
That's
in any
right.
case,
So, I don't call you Governor Healey. I guess
Governor-elect
I call you
Healey.
still Governor-elect Healey is the correct term. But I was telling Jim this morning, astute political observer that I am. I remember. You may not remember this, Governor-elect Healey, but a while ago when you were running for Attorney General, you and I had lunch at the Stockyard, which is across the street from WGBH. And I thought, well, this woman is an up-and-coming politician, and she's a very impressive woman, but she's never going to beat Warren Tolman, who was then the state senator running for Attorney General. So here you are now, the governor-elect of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Obviously, I missed something big time, Governor Healey, or Governor-elect Healey.
No, you didn't miss anything. I do remember that was a fun lunch. I remember the Stockyard is a great place. We used to go there in college.
I think there was a lot of great gossip, as I recall.
There's probably that too. But it's funny, we met. I was not even a politician at that time because I had yet to be elected to anything.
That's right, you were a
so
lawyer.
I was a lawyer looking for a position. But a lot has happened over the last 8 years. I'm incredibly grateful, particularly to my team in the office, who's worked incredibly hard on a number of fronts. It's been a privilege to be Attorney General of this great state, and it is a real honor now to be taking this on. And I am really looking forward to what we can do. Kim Driscoll and I, and the state's going to love Kim Driscoll. She's going to be a fantastic lieutenant governor, and we've been busy with transition and the work there, but really excited. And, as you know, Margie, I talked to you that day about it. I did not grow up wanting to be a politician.
That's
I did
right.
not contemplate that, imagine that, but life evolved, and I've enjoyed every opportunity that I've had, and hopefully we can move things forward here in our great state.
we'll get to the calls and the texts in about a second. We hope you're going to keep them short because a lot of people want to speak to the attorney. Well, you are the Attorney General.
What am I? It's
How many
so awkward
How many
right
times
now.
did you sue Donald Trump, Governor-elect Healey?
Enough to do what we needed to do, which was to protect the residents, protect the businesses, and protect our values and freedoms here in Massachusetts.
So
I
you
don't
obviously
know how many times.
You obviously followed the January 6th hearing yesterday. Are you okay, assuming this leads, and we know that has no legal consequence, the Department of Justice decides to indict, he's convicted at a trial and possibly sentenced to jail. Are you okay with the former President of the United States potentially serving time?
Sure, if the facts and law warrant it. And I think there's been a need for real accountability here. I think that Liz Cheney and members of that committee have just done such a tremendous job and are to be commended. And at the end of the day, what's important is that the truth come out and that those who need to be held accountable, particularly when we're talking about for the sake of our democracy, be held accountable.
Are you convinced, based upon the testimony you've seen, that he is guilty of the crimes that Jamie Raskin laid out yesterday?
I think he may be guilty of any number of things. What bothers me most is what he's done to our institutions, to people's role, to people's view of democracy, to our place in the world, and also to the contribution to tremendous division, polarization. Much of that achieved through the weaponization of misinformation, disinformation, and to me, that's one of Donald Trump's greatest affronts and always will be. Look, I am in the business right now of leading the state with optimism, with urgency, and we are going to do just that, and I think that Massachusetts has an important role to play as we move forward in this country, but I am really focused on the job and also, mindful, I think, after the last few years that democracy is precious, and we need to work hard collectively to do what we can to contribute and further that.
Let's take some calls for the Governor-elect. Jasper in Marlborough, you're on with the Governor-elect Maura Healey. Welcome to the show.
Hello. So I have a quick question. I'll try to keep it brief. It's
Thanks.
in terms of community outreach and public health. I wanted to ask a question, Governor-elect Healey. What's the plan in terms of helping communities to prevent, screen, all that kind of stuff in terms of healthcare?
And it's Jasper? Is it?
Jasper, yes.
Nice to hear from you, Jasper. In Marlborough.
Marbo.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling in. Look, public health is just so important, and I certainly want to be looking at the ways that we as a state can help support our communities in efforts around public health. Obviously, we've got some immediate and ongoing needs with respect to infection and COVID and all of that. I had a great briefing this morning with Secretary Sutters and her team. But I think more broadly speaking, there's a lot we can and must continue to do and can do more of within public health. And I think you're right to point to where can the state be a partner with our local public health authorities? Where can the state be a partner with communities when it comes to education and prevention, and also just outreach and engagement? So I'm excited about those synergies that are out there, and public health is certainly so foundational to the health and well-being of communities.
Jasper, thanks for the call. We have somebody at the mic at the Boston Public Library. I believe it is, who am I taking first? Oh, Maggie. How are you? Pickleball Maggie, for those who do not know. It's a long story. Maggie, you're on with the governor-elect.
Thank you. Governor-elect Healey, I am proud to have you as our governor-elect, and I'm also proud to say I voted for you.
Thank you. Thanks, Maggie. Are you a pickleball player?
I am a pickleball
Big time.
player.
Nice. Where do you play?
I'm trying to educate Jim.
Have you not tried it?
No, are you
It's
kidding
good.
me? I don't think so.
I actually brought my paddle in today to at least show
She
him
did.
what a paddle
She did. What's your question for the governor-elect?
Oh, you don't
Maggie?
want to talk about pickleball. Well, pickleball is great. So good for you, Maggie.
Thank you. My question is, what are your top 3 priorities, and what organizations will you enlist to address them?
Great question, Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie.
I think that right now my priority has been setting up a team, setting up a leadership team for the various cabinets and the like in this administration. But I have to say my top priorities are affordability. Making sure that Massachusetts is a place where if you live here, you can stay here. If you come here to study or to work, you can stay here. If you're an employer here or a business here, you can stay here and grow here. And that gets to issues of housing, which is why I've been really strong about needing to drive down the cost of housing by increasing housing production, fixing our transportation system, dealing with the high cost of childcare and the like. But focusing on that is really important. It also goes to something I'm very focused on, which is Massachusetts' competitiveness. Our state in the country, our state in the world. Massachusetts is home to some of the finest institutions and research and innovation. We have a history of going first on so many fronts, from universal health care to marriage equality. We have amazing human capital, intellectual capital, and the like. The key to our competitiveness, though, is going to be harnessing all of that. Years ago, Governor Patrick made a big bet on life sciences. We are now the global epicenter for life sciences. We need to make that next big bet, maybe a series of bets. I've talked a lot throughout the course of the campaign about what's possible with climate tech. We've got the ability here in our state, unlike any other state in this country, to create a climate corridor of tech, innovation, investment, manufacturing that stretches all the way from the Berkshires to Barnstable. That's exciting. And so focusing on how we make this state a more vibrant state, a more attractive state, a more desirable state for our residents and for those who want to come and live here and businesses to stay here. Because ultimately, that's about creating growth opportunities around this state. And the third thing, I think, urgently is around climate. I announced yesterday the nation's first cabinet-level climate chief. And that person, is terrific, Melissa Hoffer, will sit across all secretariats and be directly responsible, reporting to me and the lieutenant governor, on how we're driving climate policy through all of our agencies. Because unless you do that through all aspects of government with intentionality, with focus, you're not going to get to where we need to be in terms of meeting our climate goals. So that's a really exciting position and reflective of where I am in terms of my priorities around climate.
Governor-elect, if I may, following up on the affordability issue, you supported question 1, which will add anywhere from $1.2 billion to $2 billion a year, education and transportation. You also have supported, I think it's fair to call them the Baker tax cuts, which could cost as much as $1 billion. You told us on the air before the election you would veto any attempt to divert any of that billion plus from question 1 away from those 2 subject matter areas. Could you do the math for us? If that's going to raise $1 billion plus, You want the legislature to cut $1 billion plus in taxes. Or $1 billion, and it's roughly a wash. Where does the money come from to do what question 1 mandates?
I don't view it as a wash. I think these are different things. On the one hand, we're talking about tax reform, and we're talking about something I support, which is to lower taxes for seniors, for renters, for low-income, middle-income folks, to do something that I've promised to do around tax credits, $600 per child, per family in the state. Also raising the threshold of the estate tax. We are way behind other states when it comes to the estate tax. And this makes a real big difference to people who, and not wealthy people, but people who are looking to sell homes that have appreciated over time here in this landscape. So that, Jim, is tax reform. And it will, I believe, get us in the direction we need to go in terms of providing the right relief, progressive tax reform to people who need it the most, while also creating more growth opportunities. Question 1, we're going to look at that right now. We're going to have the Department of Revenue obviously go through and look at the revenues that will be coming in through that, and that will take some time. I have been very clear that I respect the will of the voters, and the voters voted to allocate that money, to make sure that money was to be directed. Ultimately, it's up to the legislature, but to have that money directed towards important investments in transportation, education, and infrastructure. And as governor, I will continue to insist on that and ask for that. And I look forward to conversations with legislative colleagues about that as we move forward.
But if they attempt to go outside of those categories or to decrease existing spending,
I've already
you'll
said with
veto it.
respect to those categories, look, in my I guess still ongoing capacity as Attorney General, our office actually had to look at that issue and look at the actual question. And we believe that under the law, it's clear that that money, those revenues, do need to go, indeed, by law, to education, transportation, and infrastructure.
Let's go to Roslindale. Jim,
And
I'm sorry.
Margaret asked, Maggie asked a
Maggie.
question about which organizations, which groups we're going to want to work with. And my message to the people across the state, we want to work with everyone. We want to work with everyone. This is a team effort. This is, how we're going to get things done in this state is by working together with organizations, with partnerships, public, private, with individuals, with associations, you name it, all across the state. And that is just a welcome call that I wanted to put out today.
Where do you want to go, Marjorie?
Jim from Roslindale. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, how are you? Good
Great.
afternoon, long-time listener, first-time caller,
Thanks.
and
Thank
hello,
you.
Governor-elect.
Hey there.
You touched on some of the climate just a few minutes ago, but I just wanted to ask in terms of the climate chief, how that was going to differentiate from the work being done by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. I'm kind of excited about it. Just curious how that's all going to fit together.
Well, Jim, let me tell you this, and thanks for the question. The Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs is critically important, and the legislature years ago set out goals that we're going to achieve as a state. I also set out goals during this campaign of 100% clean energy by 2030, electrified, 100% public transportation by 2040, and any number of things. And certainly that secretariat is going to be absolutely key in helping us drive forward and meet those goals, as well as doing any number of important things that they have in their portfolio. But Jim, we're in a day and age. Climate is about transportation. It's about employment. It's about infrastructure. It's about public health. It's about emergency preparedness and security. It's about energy. It's about so many things. And that's why I bring a view to this that we're not going to be where we need to be in terms of climate policy unless we have that driven with intention by somebody who is singularly and solely accountable to me for that, who's going to work with, not boss around, but work with all of the various cabinet members and their teams, the secretariats, so that we're seeing climate policy, whether it's in education or community and economic development and housing, across the board. And that is the only way I think that we are going to get there. And I want us to be the leader in climate policy and climate action as a state. It's a moral imperative. It's an economic imperative. It's also, as I say, when I think about our ability to create this climate corridor of tech and innovation it's also a huge economic opportunity for us, and I'm really excited about that. But that's why I created that position.
You know, Governor-elect, there's been some criticism of the Department of Public Utilities because of arguments that they are, from environmentalists, that they are too tied to the fossil fuel industry. Christine from Arlington is a member of something called Mothers Out Front, and she's very interested in whom you will be appointing to the Department of Public Utilities and if those people will favor renewable energy over fossil fuels.
Well, thanks for the question, Christine, and love Mothers Out Front. My office worked a lot with Mothers Out Front, particularly their advocacy around gas leaks and other important issues. And really, they're an organization that's out there doing incredibly important work, advocating and pushing us in the move towards renewables and a cleaner, healthier environment. Look, I think that's really important. I think that anybody who is going to work in this space has to be on board with the absolute necessity of us moving as quickly as possible away from fossil fuels towards renewables and alternative energy sources. So I will make announcements when I'm ready when it comes to DPU and other entities, but certainly that's important, and it's got to be part of the sensibility of anybody who's going to work on the team.
Sean is at the mic in the Newsfeed Cafe or whatever this area is. But in any case, Sean, you're on with the governor-elect. Welcome.
Hi, Jim and Marjorie. I'm really happy to be back at the library. It's been a while.
Thank
and
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi,
for coming,
Governor-elect Healey.
Hi, Sean.
My question is, I'm a community college student. I'm a journalism major. I've been part-time for a few years at this point. Are there any notable plans of yours that you have that would have a positive impact on community college students or community college faculty and staff?
Oh, great question. And we love our community colleges, and our community colleges, both students and educators, need support. And so we've talked a lot about this during the course of the campaign. And incidentally, I named my Secretary of Education the other day, Pat Tutwiler, who's just going to be terrific. And one of the things we've talked about is the importance of supporting our community college students. There are too many community college students out there right now across the state who are dealing with real issues of food insecurity, housing insecurity, can't afford childcare in many instances, or the cost of transportation. One of the ways to make sure that people are able to get through and make use of our community colleges is to make sure that we remove some of those barriers. And that's important funding and an important investment that we need to make. We also need to make sure that our community colleges are the gateway, are the pipeline to jobs that are readily available today. As so many out there listening today know, we've got so many industries that are struggling to find people for work. And one of the things we want to be really intentional about is making sure that our programming that's existing through community colleges is in alignment and in support of, because there are jobs to be had with industry and with what's available today. Another thing with community college, Sean, is that we have this program called Early College in the Commonwealth, where high school students, particularly a number of students in our gateway cities, have an opportunity to get not only a high school degree, but actually go to community college while they're in high school and earn credits towards a community college degree, which can get them that much further to a 2-year degree or on the road to a 4-year degree if they choose. And this is really important in terms of education and in terms of our workforce and where we need to be. So I am really mindful, just like we're here today, Boston Public Library, Boston, Massachusetts, we're home to the country's first public library. That's really cool, really important. In Franklin, not in Boston, but we love Boston too. Franklin, Mass.
I didn't even know there was a Franklin. No, I'm only joking. Go ahead. Sorry.
But we're also
No
home
offense.
to the first public school in the country, right? So we've got to really make sure we live up to those values and those promises.
Thank you for the question. I have a question for you. I am a sort of a transparency nerd. The last few governors who preceded you claimed full exemption from public records laws. I'm sure you know we've discussed this in the past. We're the only state in the country where the judiciary, the legislature, and the governor's office claim full exemption, only state from public records laws. You told us in 2015, I'm sure you remember it well, you didn't believe in blanket exemption. So I assume two questions. One, will you confirm that you will not claim exemption from public records laws as governor, and will you support legislation that at least cuts back whatever exemptions the legislature and judiciary believe they have.
Yes and yes.
Oh, well, that takes care of that. Okay. Is that
Let's go to Megan and Milton. Thank you for calling, Megan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi.
Governor-elect Healey, as the lawyer who challenged DOMA and the first gay governor of Massachusetts, what did it mean to you to see President Biden sign the Respect for Marriage Act? And do you think we'll ever get to see the Women's Health Protection Act passed too?
Oh, Megan, good afternoon, and thanks for the question. That was an emotional day last week to see President Biden sign that into law, and also to see friends and trailblazers like Mary Bonato there at the White House celebrating. Mary, of course, was lead counsel in the Goodrich case. She and I were co-counsel in our successful challenge to DOMA years ago. And also to see that couple from Northampton, Massachusetts, introducing the president. That was really special. For me personally, I think about a few things. I think about how much has happened since 2009 when I filed that case, a case that many said could not be won. And at the time, we sued actually the Obama-Biden administration to overturn the Defense of Marriage Act, which was just so unfair to our married same-sex couples here in the state and in other places where marriage was recognized. And you know, as I say, I remember when we filed that, a lot of people, we took some grief from people, including constitutional scholars who thought it was a little foolhardy to file that kind of case and wondered what it would do to jurisprudence and the like. I also remember, you know, partway through, we'd won in the lower court. We won the case in the lower court here, Federal District Court, and it was up on appeal. And I remember then Vice President Biden went on some
Meet the
talk
press.
show.
Meet the press.
And he made a comment in support of marriage equality. And I think it had the effect of accelerating and President Obama's decision to basically change and to have at that time we were suing. We were up against the Department of Justice, and I remember getting a call from Tony West. He was then head of the Civil Division. A few days later, and he said we were going to withdraw and come instead of being against you in the appeal. The United States is going to come in on your side. And that really helped cement and change the trajectory of that appeal and then the case ultimately, which, you know, we prevailed in the Supreme Court. So I think about Joe Biden. You know, that was my Joe Biden moment last week, was thinking about his comments and then what resulted. And it was great to see the signing. Of course, you know, to be clear, this was the law. You know, this was what Obergefell said. But it's nice, nevertheless, to have that backstop. It's also really important, Megan, that people recognize this was a bipartisan piece of legislation. I would have liked more Republicans to sign, sure, but it was a bipartisan piece of legislation, and it shows, I think, and it should, I hope, provide some affirmation to folks out there in the LGBTQ community, too many families who felt a lot of fear the last few years and subject to a lot of attacks, that, you know what, no, we're going to be strong. We're certainly going to be strong here in Massachusetts, and I'll do everything in my power to make sure that we're looking out to protect the health and well-being of you know, all people, but especially those, you know, who have been unfairly targeted, denigrated, discriminated against for far too long.
Let's go back to the mic in the studio. Is it Nancy? Am I getting that right? Nancy, welcome. You're on with the governor-elect.
Hi, Governor.
Hey, Nancy.
Hey, I've been a fan forever because you really defend those of us who don't have a voice, don't have power, and you've always been like that. And every person I've spoken to in every neighborhood, and really, let's be real, Boston neighborhoods have an ethnic base that's all different. And every ethnic group and every neighborhood respects you. So thank you. Because you've defended us.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to say, how are you going to deal with the MBTA? I'm a former construction worker. As a former construction worker who worked around here in the 80s, I learned very early that if you want to lay down and make lots of money, go to the MBTA. And that comes from the top down. Good luck, Governor.
All right, thanks, Nancy.
That was a good one, Nancy.
All kidding aside, this is really, really important. And, I've said for a long time, we don't have a functioning economy unless we have a functioning transportation system. And for far too long, we have had a T that is not where it needs to be. We need a T in a transportation system. We're talking trains and rail and buses that are safe, affordable, and reliable. I've said two things when it comes to the T. And I am a person of action, and I'm not afraid to take on tough challenges, and neither is the Lieutenant Governor-elect Kim Driscoll. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to, and we've engaged a search firm, we've looked at some candidates. We're doing a worldwide search to make sure that we are bringing to town the best possible candidate to be the next general manager. That person is going to have transit experience, they're going to have operations experience, and they're going to understand that right now we've got a real workforce challenge when it comes to the T. The T needs workers. And so we're going to make sure that we have the right GM in place. We're also going to appoint a transportation safety chief. We've never had this before. That person is going to be responsible for making sure that everything is inspected. 3, we're going to make sure that we are taking a hard look and taking the necessary steps to address what the FTA has pointed out in terms of deficiencies. So these are some of the things right out of the gate that we're going to do. I am really committed to this. It is absolutely important. And again, ties to my climate policy. How are we going to incent people to get out of their cars, to come into our city, unless and until we have a transit system that's safe, that's reliable, that's affordable? That's an incredibly important priority.
Is that going to incent you to take the subway from Porter Square?
Oh, now and again. I think it's important that we do have, and that I have, personal experience with the experiences that other residents around the Commonwealth are having. So it certainly won't be every day. And as you know, Jim, as governor, my job, I'm going to be all over the state, right? But I do think it's important that we be in touch with the lived experience of residents around the state, including, how it is they come and go to work or the like.
Governor Healey, the Supreme Court on Monday said that the legislature, lawmakers have to get involved because as it stands now, a gentleman who is suffering from stage 4 prostate cancer has took a case to the court, hoping to have physician-assisted suicide legalized. The court said it remains a crime under the state's Declaration of Rights, and there needs to be intervention by lawmakers. There was a ballot question that failed a few years back on this, but it was initially very popular. Then it changed by the time the vote came around. But where are you on physician-assisted suicide?
Well, I thought the court made the right decision here. I think it's a really challenging and heart-rending issue, obviously, for so many. What I have said and what I think should happen is that the legislature should do the work, have the hearings, and figure out the best guide rails to put in place when it comes to this. So I support it as a general matter, and I think the key is just making sure that we have the right guardrails and processes in place for when the time comes that loved ones need to make that decision.
Okay, we only have a minute left. So this is pretty decent half hour, right?
That's great.
Okay, how would you feel about doing it an hour every month starting in January? It's called Ask the Governor, which you'll be then. Yes? How about it?
How about it? How could I not want to come back here? Of course.
That's right.
I'd love to.
Excellent. At the library, yes?
I love to. I love doing it at the library when we can.
Great.
So I would love to do that.